嗨，周末愉快，我是 Jenny， 欢迎来到 Jenny 周末来闲聊。今天我们要聊一个超有画面感的主题，就是世界上最奇妙的咖啡馆文化。有些咖啡馆啊，根本像另一个宇宙。你准备好一起去环游世界了吗？那我们出发咯。好，先说说为什么咖啡馆这件事这么特别。你想想看，每个地方的人对咖啡馆这件事的理解竟然差那么多。台湾人去咖啡馆喜欢坐很久，带着电脑工作，叫一杯拿铁可以撑4个小时，对吧？但走出台湾，世界各地的咖啡馆有些奇妙到你根本想不到。今天就带你去5个地方晃晃：東京、首尔、北欧、巴黎，还有现在最夯的 AI 咖啡馆。每一个都有自己的灵魂，每一个都让人惊叹。我们走。第一站，东京的猫咪咖啡馆。好，先说一件事，如果你没去过东京的猫咪咖啡馆，你这辈子不算完整。我说真的，东京的吃茶文化超级深厚，日本人对咖啡馆的执着是有历史的，从江户时代就开始喝茶聊天，后来西方咖啡文化传进来，日本人把它改造成完全不一样的东西，他们发展出独特的吃茶店文化，那种安静，那种精致，那种每一个细节都讲究的感觉，是全世界独一无二的。然后到了近代，日本人把这种文化再往前推了一大步，动物咖啡馆登场，最有名的当然是猫咪咖啡馆。気分今日の猫カフェ，第一家正式的猫咪咖啡馆开在大阪，时间是2004年。后来这个概念像病毒一样在全日本蔓延，现在光是东京就有超过100家猫咪咖啡馆。想想看，100家，去过的人都说，走进去的瞬间，整个世界变安静了。猫咪们懒洋洋地趴在这里那里，有的在睡觉，有的在窗边晒太阳，有的走过来蹭你的腿，然后你手边有一杯拿铁，外面可能是东京最繁忙的街道，但你在这里完全不想离开，这就是猫咪咖啡馆的魔力。但你知道吗？猫咪咖啡馆背后其实有很深的社会意义。日本的都市化程度很高，很多人住在小小的公寓里，根本不能养宠物，所以这些咖啡馆给了都市人一个出口，一个可以被动物温暖的地方，不需要承担养宠物的责任，但可以感受那份陪伴。有研究说，摸猫可以降低人体的皮质醇，也就是压力荷尔蒙，还能降血压。所以猫咪咖啡馆不只是好玩，它根本是一种都市疗愈设施。猫咪咖啡馆还有很多有趣的规矩，进门要先洗手，不能强迫猫咪让你摸它，要让猫主动靠近你，不能在猫咪睡觉的时候打扰它，甚至有些店会说明每只猫的个性，这只喜欢被摸头，那只不喜欢被抱，另外那只最爱追逗猫棒。这种细致的介绍，让你感觉猫咪真的是店里的主角，不是装饰品。这种对动物的尊重态度，也是日本文化里很动人的一面。现在东京还有更多变化版本，刺猬咖啡馆、猫头鹰咖啡馆、爬虫类咖啡馆，甚至有羊驼咖啡馆。这个城市真的太疯狂了，每一个都有自己的粉丝族群，每一个都让人啧啧称奇。我个人觉得最有趣的是猫头鹰咖啡馆，因为猫头鹰这种动物，平常你根本不会有机会靠近它，但在东京某些地方，你可以让猫头鹰站在你手臂上拍照，一边喝着咖啡，这个画面想想就超梦幻。而且猫头鹰其实比你想象的安静，你以为它会叫个不停，其实大部分时候它都很淡定地看着你，那个眼神非常有灵性，让你感觉自己正在被一个古老的存在审视，很奇妙的体验。第二站，首尔的漫画咖啡馆。从东京飞到首尔，换一种完全不同的宇宙。韩国的咖啡馆文化是全世界咖啡馆密度最高的地区之一。首尔有多少咖啡馆？你猜？首尔一个城市曾经统计超过17000家咖啡馆，每走几步路就一家。 这个数字真的很夸张。韩国人喝咖啡的频率，根据统计，平均每人每年喝超过350杯，比全球平均高出非常多。但今天我们要讲的，不是一般的咖啡馆，是韩国的漫画咖啡馆。韩文的概念叫做漫画房，这个概念超有趣。你走进去，四面墙壁都是书架，上面放满了漫画书，可能有几千本。你付一个时段的费用，然后选一本你喜欢的漫画，坐在超舒服的椅子或者床型座位上，好好享受一个下午。韩国漫画文化非常发达，不只是纸本漫画，现在更有数位化的网络漫画，就是我们说的 Webtoon， 竖向滑动的手机漫画，就是从韩国红起来的。现在全球有超过1亿人在看 Webtoon， 很多作品后来还改编成电视剧，在全球都大受欢迎。所以你走进一家首尔的漫画咖啡馆，其实是走进了一个文化革命的发源地。去漫画咖啡馆的体验，有点像是回到小时候那种躲在棉被里偷看漫画的感觉，只是现在合法了，还有咖啡可以喝。很多韩国人去那里，不只是看漫画，也是去补眠的，因为可以躺着，环境安静舒适。对都市人来说，这就是很奢侈的享受。韩国还有很多主题式咖啡馆，偶像周边咖啡馆超有趣。当某个韩国偶像生日的时候，粉丝会集资租下一家咖啡馆，把整个空间布置成偶像主题，放偶像的照片，卖偶像图案的饮料，开放其他粉丝来消费，感觉很疯狂吧？但这在韩国是正常文化，每逢偶像生日或出道周年，这种粉丝咖啡馆就会到处出现。除了偶像咖啡馆，首尔还有装潢超夸张的主题咖啡馆，有整个空间打造成云朵感觉的，有仙气飘飘的温室咖啡馆，有让你感觉置身图书馆的文青咖啡馆，有打造成古代韩屋风格的传统咖啡馆。韩国人对咖啡馆的审美有一种非常强烈的视觉冲击感，他们懂得如何让每一个角落都上镜。这也是为什么韩国咖啡馆的照片总是在社群媒体上疯传。首尔还有一个很特别的文化现象，因为咖啡馆实在太多，竞争超激烈，所以店家必须不断想办法差异化。有一些咖啡馆走的是超极致的路线，比如说只卖一种饮品，而且这种饮品做到极致完美，就一样东西，但那一样东西是全首尔最好的。这种专注的精神，让韩国咖啡馆文化变得非常多元，你永远可以找到让你惊喜的地方。第3站，北欧的森林系咖啡馆。说完东亚，我们飞到地球另一端，挪威、瑞典、芬兰这3个北欧国家，有一种我最爱的咖啡馆文化，那就是森林系咖啡馆。北欧人有个词叫做 Hygge， 这个词来自丹麦语和挪威语，大概的意思是那种舒适惬意的感觉，和亲近的人待在温暖的空间里，享受简单美好的事物，点一根蜡烛，喝一杯热饮，窗外可以下雪，但你在里面很安心。Hygge 这个概念现在已经被翻译成很多语言，成为全世界向往的生活方式。北欧的咖啡馆完美体现了 Hygge 的精神。你去斯德哥尔摩或者赫尔辛基的咖啡馆，会看到原木色的家具，很多绿色植物，大片的玻璃窗让自然光进来，墙上可能挂着干燥花，桌上有厚重的陶瓷杯，整个空间就像森林搬进了室内。那种温度，那种静谧，让你喝一杯咖啡就感觉被充饱了电。北欧人喝咖啡的习惯也很特别，芬兰是全世界人均咖啡消费量最高的国家之一，芬兰人平均每人每年喝大约12公斤的咖啡豆，这个数字是台湾的好几倍。在芬兰，喝咖啡不只是一种饮食习惯，它是一种社交仪式。你去拜访朋友，主人一定先给你倒咖啡；你去办公室开会，一定先喝咖啡再说事情。如果主人没有倒咖啡给你，那才是一件很奇怪的事。芬兰的咖啡馆有一个超有趣的特色，很多咖啡馆是开在森林里的，字面意义上的森林里， 你要走过一小段林间小路才能到达，旁边可能有湖，坐在木头椅子上，听着风吹过树叶的声音，手边一杯黑咖啡，这种体验跟在城市里喝咖啡完全不同次元。很多芬兰人说，这才是真正的休息，不是滑手机，不是追剧，是让你的眼睛和心灵都放空的那种宁静。另外，北欧还有一个咖啡传统叫做 Fika， 这是瑞典语，意思是在工作中间休息喝咖啡。瑞典的公司文化里， Fika 时间是正式的工作文化，每天早上一次，下午一次，大家放下工作，一起喝咖啡聊天，吃一点小点心。这不是偷懒，这是正式制度。研究显示，有 Fika 文化的公司，员工的工作满意度和创造力都比较高。北欧人早就懂得工作和生活的平衡，我们台湾人学习了很多年，他们一早就把它制度化了。Fika 吃什么呢？最传统的是肉桂卷，瑞典语叫做 kanelbullar， 就是那种螺旋形的甜面包，里面有肉桂和奶油，烤出来香气四溢，配着咖啡一起吃。这个组合在瑞典是全国标配。瑞典每年消费的肉桂卷数量大概是几亿个，这个数字听起来夸张，但你去过之后就觉得完全合理，因为真的太好吃了。第4站，巴黎的哲学咖啡馆。说到咖啡馆，怎么能不讲巴黎？巴黎的咖啡馆不只是喝咖啡的地方，它是历史的见证者，是思想的诞生地，是整个法国文化的缩影。让我说一个故事，你知道法国大革命和咖啡馆有什么关系吗？时间回到1789年，当时巴黎有很多著名的咖啡馆，其中一家就在现在的皇家宫殿旁边。1789年7月12日，一个叫做卡米尔·德穆兰的革命家跳上咖啡馆外面的椅子，对着人群大喊，他说现在就是行动的时刻，他说拿起武器，他说自由要靠自己争取。2天后，巴士底狱被攻陷，法国大革命正式开始。所以你看，咖啡馆不只是喝咖啡的地方，它可以改变世界。巴黎咖啡馆的黄金时代是19世纪末到20世纪初，那个时代的左岸咖啡馆是整个欧洲思想界的圣地。你想想看，那个年代坐在花神咖啡馆的都是什么人？沙特、西蒙波娃、海明威、卡牟、毕卡索，这些人都是花神咖啡馆的常客。他们在这里写作，在这里辩论，在这里谈恋爱，在这里改变了20世纪的思想走向。花神咖啡馆在哪里呢？就在巴黎第6区的圣日耳曼大道上，它创立于1885年，现在还在。你现在去还是可以在那里喝咖啡的，只是价格比较贵就是了，但那个感觉是无法取代的。你坐在沙特曾经坐过的角落，窗外是巴黎的街道，那种历史的分量真的会让你起鸡皮疙瘩。还有一家必提的是双手咖啡馆，就在花神旁边，这2家是邻居，也是竞争对手，但他们共同定义了巴黎左岸的文化。双手每年还有一个文学奖，得奖的作品在文学界很有分量。法国人对咖啡馆有一种特别的情感，他们去咖啡馆不只是为了咖啡，是为了那个空间里的自由感。巴黎人超爱坐在露天座位，就算天气有点凉，包着围巾坐在户外，看着街上的行人走过，喝着一小杯意式浓缩咖啡。这个画面是巴黎的标志性符号，任何一部关于巴黎的电影都会有这个镜头，因为它确实捕捉到了巴黎人的灵魂。现代的巴黎还保留着一个很有趣的哲学咖啡馆传统，叫做哲学咖啡。这个概念是1992年开始的，由一个法国哲学家发起。做法很简单，找一家咖啡馆，定一个时间，找一个哲学问题，让大家来讨论，不需要哲学学历，不需要任何资格，只要带着你的大脑和好奇心。问题可以是很日常的，幸福是什么？自由有极限吗？孤独是坏事吗？大家在咖啡馆里一起想，一起说， 现在这个概念已经流传到全世界超过60个国家，台湾也有哦，这让我很骄傲，因为台湾人真的很喜欢思考。第5站 AI 机器人咖啡馆。好，压轴的来了，从历史穿越到未来，我们现在来聊聊最新的咖啡馆革命 AI 机器人咖啡馆。这不是科幻小说，这是现在已经发生的事情，全世界都在出现各种机器人咖啡馆。先从韩国说起，因为韩国在这方面跑很快，首尔出现了机器手臂咖啡馆的概念，里面的咖啡师不是人类，是一台机器手臂，你走进去，在荧幕上点餐，然后看着机器手臂，精准地把咖啡豆研磨，打奶泡，把咖啡做好，然后推到取餐口，全程大概1分半钟，整个过程非常疗愈，就是好看到舍不得不盯着看。那个机械臂的动作，既精准又有一种奇特的优雅感。很多人去了根本不是去喝咖啡，是去看表演的。中国大陆也有很多机器人咖啡厅，上海和深圳都有，有的是整个流程自动化，有的是机器人服务生端餐，有的是 AI 系统根据你的口味偏好，自动调配专属的咖啡配方，这个就很厉害了。你输入你喜欢什么口感，喜欢什么香气，系统分析之后帮你做一杯，理论上每次喝的都是最适合你的版本。这种个人化服务，以前要靠一个了解你很久的咖啡师才能做到，现在 AI 可能比咖啡师更了解你的口味，因为他记得你每次点什么，记得你每次的评价，他在不断学习你的偏好。日本在这方面也很有代表性，有一些东京的咖啡馆，机器人会跟你对话，询问你想喝什么，了解你今天的心情，甚至给你一些饮品建议。机器人的语音系统非常流畅，很多客人说，跟他聊天的体验比跟真人店员还轻松，因为不用担心打扰别人，也不用有社交压力。对于那些不太擅长社交的人来说，这种互动方式反而更自在。美国也有很多 AI 咖啡馆的实验，旧金山是重镇，因为矽谷就在旁边，那边有很多科技公司在测试未来的餐饮模式，有一些自动咖啡机台直接设在机场，旅客在候机的时候，可以用手机预先点咖啡，机器在你走到取餐区的时候，咖啡刚好做好，完美的时间控制，等待时间几乎是0。对于赶时间的旅客来说，这个体验真的非常好。但我觉得最有趣的问题是 ，AI 咖啡馆到底缺少了什么？我去过几家机器人咖啡馆，咖啡本身做得很好，甚至比一般咖啡馆还稳定，因为机器不会手抖，不会今天状态不好，不会因为心情不好影响出品，每一杯都一样精准。但是，你有没有过这种经验？走进一家咖啡馆，店员认出你了，说一声，哎，你今天来了，今天天气不好哦，你老样子吗？然后你不用说话，他就开始做你的那杯咖啡，那种被记住的感觉，那种被在乎的温度，机器目前还做不到，至少那种发自内心的温度还差很远。所以很多人观察，未来的咖啡馆市场可能会分成2个极端，一个是极致效率的 AI 咖啡馆，快准狠，没有人情味，但便宜好喝；另一个是极致人情味的精品咖啡馆，慢而有温度，让你感受到被在乎。这2种都会有市场，只是服务的需求不同。其实我觉得这个现象不只是咖啡馆的问题，是整个时代的提问。当效率可以被机器取代，人与人之间真正的连结反而变得更珍贵，更有价值。以前我们去咖啡馆是因为它比家里更方便，未来我们去咖啡馆可能是因为那里有真实的人类温度，那是 AI 永远无法完全复制的东西。好，走完这5站，我们从东京的猫咪疗愈，到首尔的漫画沉浸，到北欧的森林静谧，到巴黎的思想激荡，再到未来的 AI 效率革命。每一种咖啡馆文化都在回应那个地方的人对于生活的渴望，对于连结的需求。 对于片刻喘息的追寻。你知道吗？我觉得咖啡馆这件事，本质上是人类一直在问的一个问题。在这个忙碌世界里，哪里可以让我做自己？哪里可以让我慢下来？哪里可以让我感觉到我是活着的？不管是东京的猫咪咖啡馆，还是巴黎的哲学咖啡馆，答案都是同一个，就是那个让你愿意推开门走进去的地方。我想问问你，你最喜欢的咖啡馆是什么类型呢？是那种可以带电脑待一下午的，还是那种可以看书发呆的？还是你也想试试看猫咪咖啡馆？还是说你超想去巴黎坐在花神咖啡馆发呆？欢迎在留言区告诉我，我超想知道大家的答案。好，今天的闲聊就到这里，希望你今天有被带去环游世界一圈的感觉。谢谢你愿意在周末陪着 Jenny 聊天，我们下次见咯。Hey everyone, happy weekend. I am Jenny. Welcome to Jenny Weekend Chat. Today we are going on a little adventure together. We are talking about the most fascinating cafe cultures in the world. Some cafes out there are literally like stepping into a completely different universe. Are you ready to travel the world without ever leaving your couch? Let us go. Before we start, let me share something that always amazes me. Every culture has such a wildly different relationship with cafes. Back home in Taiwan, people love to camp out at a cafe for hours. You order one latte and suddenly 4 hours have passed. Laptop open, headphones on, zero plans to leave. Sound familiar? But once you travel, you realize the world has so many other ideas about what a cafe can be. Today I am taking you to 5 incredible places: Tokyo, Seoul, Northern Europe, Paris, and finally, the cafes of the future powered by AI and robots. Each one has its own soul. Each one will surprise you. Let us start. First stop: Tokyo Cat Cafes. Okay, I need to be a little dramatic about this. If you have never been to a cat cafe in Tokyo, you have genuinely been missing out. I mean it. Japan has one of the deepest coffee shop cultures in the world. It goes way back. Since the Edo period, people in Japan had tea houses where they would sit, relax, and talk. When Western coffee culture eventually arrived, Japan did not just copy it. They transformed it into something completely their own. The Japanese Kissiten culture, the world of traditional Japanese coffee shops, is legendary. The quiet atmosphere, the meticulous attention to detail, the sense that every element of the experience has been thought through carefully. There is nothing quite like it anywhere else in the world. Then modern Japan pushed this culture even further. Animal cafes arrived on the scene. The most famous are cat cafes, known in Japanese as Nikko Cafe. The first official cat cafe opened in Osaka in 2004. The concept spread across Japan almost immediately. Right now, Tokyo alone has over 100 cat cafes. 100. Think about what that number means. Everyone who visits says the same thing. The moment you walk through the door, the whole world goes quiet. Cats are draped lazily across cushions and windowsills. Some are sleeping. Some are watching people with calm, half-closed eyes. Some come over and brush gently against your legs. You have a warm latte in your hands. Outside might be the most chaotic street in all of Tokyo. But inside here, you never want to leave. That is the magic of a cat cafe. But there is actually deep social meaning behind this phenomenon. Japan is one of the most urbanized countries in the world. Millions of people live in small apartments that strictly prohibit pets. So these cafes became an emotional release valve. A place where city people could experience animal companionship without the full responsibilities of pet ownership. Research shows that spending time with cats measurably reduces cortisol, which is the stress hormone in our bodies. It can also lower blood pressure. So a cat cafe is not just charming entertainment. It is practically a mental wellness facility in disguise. Cat cafes also have surprisingly thoughtful rules. You wash your hands before entering. You must never force a cat to interact with you. You wait for the cat to approach you on its own terms. You never wake a sleeping cat. Many shops even have little profiles for each resident cat. This one loves having its head scratched. That one prefers not to be picked up. The fluffy one in the corner goes wild for the feather toy. This kind of caring, respectful approach to animals reveals something genuinely beautiful about Japanese culture. And Tokyo has pushed the animal cafe concept in endless directions. Hedgehog cafes, owl cafes, reptile cafes. There is even a capybara cafe. This city knows absolutely no limits. My personal favorite concept is the owl cafe. Because owls are creatures you would almost never encounter up close in everyday life. But in certain spots in Tokyo, an owl can sit on your arm while you sip your coffee. Owls are much quieter than you might expect. Most of the time, they just gaze at you with those deep, knowing eyes. It feels like being studied by something ancient and wise. It is a genuinely surreal experience. Let me tell you a little more about why Tokyo became the world capital of animal cafes. Tokyo is one of the most densely populated cities on Earth. Around 14 million people live there. The pace of life is relentless. The work culture is intense. Rush hour on the Tokyo Metro is famous for being almost beyond description. People in white gloves literally push passengers into packed trains. So when you finally step off that train and walk into a quiet space full of sleeping cats, the contrast is overwhelming. That release of tension is something incredibly powerful. It is like the city itself is exhaling. The business model of cat cafes is also worth talking about. Most charge by the hour. Typically around 500 to 1,000 yen for 30 minutes. That is roughly the same as buying a coffee at a nice cafe. But what you are paying for is not just the coffee. You are paying for time in the company of animals. You are paying for that specific quality of calm. Many cat cafe owners will tell you their regular customers come not just weekly, but sometimes several times a week. These people are not tourists. They are residents of the city who have made cat cafe visits a genuine part of their mental health routine. That tells you something profound about urban life and what people need to survive it. There is also a fascinating side story about the cats themselves. Many cat cafes in Japan work with animal shelters and rescue organizations. The cats living in the cafe often came from difficult backgrounds. Some were strays. Some were surrendered by families who could no longer care for them. The cafe gives them a stable, comfortable home. And in return, the cats provide that irreplaceable sense of companionship to the customers. It is a genuinely beautiful arrangement when it works well. Some cat cafes even partner with local adoption programs. So if you fall in love with a particular cat during your visit, you can actually bring them home. The cafe becomes a kind of gentle, low-pressure matchmaking service between cats and potential owners. I think that is one of the most heartwarming things I have ever heard about a coffee shop. Second stop. Seoul Manhwa and Webtoon cafes. We fly from Tokyo to Seoul now. Completely different universe. Korean cafe culture is one of the densest in the entire world. How many cafes does Seoul have? Take a guess. Seoul, just one city, was once counted to have over 17,000 cafes. 17,000? You literally pass a new cafe every few steps. Koreans drink coffee at a remarkable pace. Surveys suggest the average Korean drinks over 350 cups of coffee per year. That is significantly higher than the global average. But today I want to zoom in on something specific. Korean manhwa cafes. The concept is brilliant in its simplicity. You walk in and the walls, from floor to ceiling, are bookshelves. Packed with thousands of manhwa volumes, which is the Korean word for comics. You pay an hourly or session fee. You pick whatever series catches your eye. You settle into an incredibly comfortable chair or sometimes a bed-style reclining seat. And you spend an entire afternoon lost in another world. Korean comics culture is extraordinarily rich. And it gave birth to something that genuinely changed the entire global comics industry. Webtoons. Vertically scrolling digital comics specifically designed to be read on smartphones. This format was pioneered in Korea and is now consumed by well over 100 million readers worldwide. Beloved series started as webtoons and later became global television phenomena. So when you visit a manhwa cafe in Seoul, you are literally sitting in the birthplace of a cultural revolution. The experience feels like being a kid again. Reading comics under the blanket with a flashlight, except now it is completely acceptable. And there is excellent coffee on the side. Many Koreans also visit these cafes specifically to nap. Because you can lie down, the environment is quiet and cozy, and for people living fast city lives, that kind of genuine rest is a real luxury. I want to say something a little deeper about the manhwa cafe and what it represents culturally. Korean society places enormous pressure on young people to perform. The education system is famously intense. University entrance exams can determine the entire trajectory of a young person's life. Competition for jobs is fierce. The pressure to succeed by conventional measures is enormous and unrelenting. In that context, the manhwa cafe serves a function that goes well beyond entertainment. It is permission to stop, to be unproductive, to sit in a comfortable chair and read a story about a hero who overcomes impossible odds, which is itself a kind of emotional nourishment. Many Webtoon stories deal with themes of failure, identity, loneliness, and finding your own path. Reading those stories is not escapism in a shallow sense. It is actually a form of emotional processing, a way of working through questions about who you are and what you want, through the safe distance of narrative. The fact that Korean culture built entire cafes dedicated to that activity tells you something important about what people actually need, even when the dominant culture tells them that productivity is the only thing that matters. The manhwa cafe is a quiet act of resistance. A room that says, it is okay to rest. It is okay to feel. It is okay to just be a person for a few hours. I find that genuinely beautiful. Seoul also has a wonderfully wild tradition called idol birthday cafes. When a K-pop idol has a birthday, dedicated fans pool their money to rent out an entire cafe. They redecorate the space entirely in the idol theme. Photos everywhere. Custom drinks with the idol artwork printed on them. They then open it up for other fans to come and visit. This sounds extreme, but in Seoul it is completely normal behavior. Every time a major idol has a birthday or an anniversary, these fan-run pop-up cafes appear all over the city. Seoul also has an obsession with visually stunning cafe aesthetics. There are cloud cafes where the entire interior makes you feel like you are floating in the sky. Greenhouse cafes so full of plants they feel like indoor jungles. Pure white minimal spaces that feel more like art galleries than coffee shops. Ancient Hanok-style cafes where you sit on the floor in traditional wooden architecture. Koreans have an exceptionally strong visual sensibility and understand exactly how to make every corner worth photographing. It is no accident that so many of the most viral cafe photos in the world come from Seoul. There is another fascinating side to Seoul cafe culture. Because the competition is so intense, cafes have to constantly differentiate themselves. Some choose an extreme focus strategy. One product only. One drink done to absolute perfection. Nothing else on the menu. But that one thing is the best version of it in all of Seoul. This kind of focused dedication is part of what makes Korean cafe culture so diverse and exciting. You can always find something unexpected. Let me also tell you about something unique to Seoul that I find absolutely fascinating. It is the concept of study cafes, or in Korean, gongbubang. These are cafes specifically designed for long, focused study sessions. They are not libraries, but they function with library-level quiet. You pay by the hour. You get a dedicated desk with good lighting, a power outlet, and sometimes a locker for your things. The coffee and drinks are available but secondary. The primary product being sold is the environment itself. The focused, productive atmosphere. This tells you something important about Korean culture. Academic achievement and hard work are deeply valued. And Korean young people have turned the simple act of studying into a communal ritual. You go to a study cafe not just because the conditions are good, but because being surrounded by others who are also working creates a kind of motivational energy. It is the study hall reimagined as a hospitality experience. Some of these study cafes are open 24 hours a day. Because in Korea, the dedication to working hard does not stop when the sun goes down. Third stop. Nordic forest cafes. After East Asia, we travel to the other side of the world. Norway, Sweden, Finland. These Nordic countries have a cafe culture that I personally find the most soulful. The forest cafe tradition. Nordic people have a concept called Hygge. This word comes from Danish and Norwegian. It roughly translates to a feeling of coziness and contentment. Being with people you care about in a warm and comfortable space. Enjoying simple and beautiful things. Lighting a candle. Holding a warm cup. Snow falling quietly outside, but you are safe and warm inside. Hygge has been translated into dozens of languages and has become a lifestyle ideal that people around the world genuinely aspire to. Nordic cafes are the physical expression of Hygge. Walk into a cafe in Stockholm or Helsinki and you will see natural wood furniture. Generous green plants everywhere. Large windows letting in soft, diffused natural light. Dried flowers on the walls. Heavy ceramic mugs sitting on worn wooden tables. The whole space feels like a forest has moved indoors. That warmth. That stillness. One cup of coffee in a place like that, and you feel genuinely restored. Nordic people have a deeply serious relationship with coffee. Finland is consistently among the very top countries in the world for per capita coffee consumption. The average Finn drinks around 12 kilograms of coffee beans per person per year. That is several times higher than what most Taiwanese people consume. In Finland, coffee is not just a beverage. It is a social ritual. When you visit someone at home, the first thing they do is make coffee. When you attend a work meeting, coffee comes before any business is discussed. If your host does not offer coffee, that would actually feel quite strange. Finnish cafes have a beautiful quirk worth mentioning. Many of them are literally located inside forests. Not forest-themed. Actual forests. You walk down a small woodland path to reach the entrance. There might be a lake visible nearby. You sit in a wooden chair. You hear wind moving through the trees. You hold a cup of black coffee. This experience exists in a completely different dimension from drinking coffee in a city. Many Finns describe it as genuine rest. Not scrolling a phone. Not watching something. Just letting your eyes and your mind go completely quiet. Sweden has an official workplace coffee tradition called Fika. The word means taking a break during work to have coffee together. In Swedish workplace culture, Fika time is a recognized institution. Twice a day, morning and afternoon, everyone stops working. People come together, drink coffee, eat a small pastry, and have a light conversation. This is not slacking. This is a formal part of professional culture. Research has shown that companies with a strong Fika culture report higher scores for employee satisfaction and creative output. Nordic people understood work-life balance long before anyone coined the phrase. The classic Fika pastry is the Swedish cinnamon roll, called kanelbullar. That spiral-shaped sweet bread filled with cinnamon and butter. The smell alone is enough to make you stop what you are doing. Paired with coffee, this combination is a Swedish national institution. Sweden consumes an extraordinary number of these rolls every single year. Once you have tried one fresh from the oven with a strong cup of Nordic coffee, you will completely understand why. There is one more beautiful dimension to Nordic cafe culture that I want to share. It is the relationship between darkness, light, and coffee. Nordic countries sit at very high latitudes. In winter, Finland and Norway can have as few as 3 or 4 hours of daylight per day. For months, people live in almost continuous darkness. This might sound depressing, but Nordic people have developed a remarkable cultural adaptation to it. Instead of fighting the darkness, they have learned to embrace it, to find beauty in it, to make it cozy. This is where Hygge becomes not just a lifestyle preference, but an actual survival strategy. The warm glow of candles in a dark cafe window. The steam rising from a ceramic mug. The soft sound of quiet conversation. These things become genuinely precious when the world outside is cold and dark for months at a time. In that context, the Forest Cafe is not just an aesthetic choice. It is a way of saying that nature is not the enemy. That even in winter, there is beauty and stillness waiting for you outside those glass windows. And having coffee in that setting becomes an act of gratitude. A small ceremony of appreciation for being warm and alive and in good company. I find that deeply moving. It gives the simple act of drinking coffee a kind of spiritual weight that is hard to find anywhere else. I also want to mention something that Nordic cultures share with Taiwan that I think is quite beautiful. Both places have a deep appreciation for the small pleasures. A cup of good tea, a quiet afternoon, the sound of rain outside. In Taiwan we might call this enjoying the moment, or finding peace in simple things. In Scandinavia they call it hygge. The words are different but the feeling is identical. And maybe that is why Nordic cafe aesthetics have become so popular in Taiwan over the past decade. You walk into a Taipei cafe with natural wood, potted plants, and handmade ceramics. And you realize that someone here understood hygge perfectly, even without knowing the word. Good design for human well-being is universal. It crosses every border and every language. The body knows when it is somewhere that was made with care. And it responds with the same feeling, whether you are in Helsinki or in Taipei. That connection is something I find genuinely wonderful. Fourth stop. Parisian philosophy cafes. When it comes to cafe culture, we cannot skip Paris. The Parisian cafe is not just a place to drink coffee. It is a witness to history. It is a birthplace of revolutionary ideas. It is the very soul of French cultural identity. Let me tell you a story. Do you know what connection the French Revolution has with cafes? The year is 1789. Paris has many famous cafes at this time. One of them is located right near the Palais Royal. On July 12, 1789, a revolutionary named Camille Desmoulins climbed onto a chair outside a Paris cafe. He addressed the crowd gathering around him. He declared that the moment to act had arrived. He called on the people to arm themselves. He said freedom must be taken, not waited for. 2 days later, the Bastille was stormed. The French Revolution had officially begun. A speech made outside a cafe changed the course of history. Think about that. The golden age of Parisian cafes was the late 19th century through the early 20th century. The left bank cafes of that era were the intellectual capital of Europe. Think about who was sitting in Café de Flore at that time. Jean-Paul Sartre, Simone de Beauvoir, Ernest Hemingway, Albert Camus, Pablo Picasso. All of them were regulars. They wrote in those cafes. They argued in those cafes. They fell in love in those cafes. They changed the intellectual direction of the entire 20th century in those cafes. Café de Flore is located on Boulevard Saint-Germain in the 6th arrondissement of Paris. It was founded in 1885. And it is still open today. You can walk in right now and sit down for coffee. Yes, it costs more than your average neighborhood cafe. But the weight of history you feel in that space cannot be replicated anywhere else on earth. Sitting in a corner where Sartre once sat, watching Parisian life move outside the window. That feeling genuinely gives you chills. Right next door is another legendary spot called Les Deux Magots, meaning the two figurines. These two cafes are neighbors and longtime rivals. But together they define the entire left bank intellectual scene. Les Deux Magots even awards its own annual literary prize, which carries real prestige in French literary circles. The French have a particular kind of love for outdoor cafe seating. The French word for it is terrasse. Parisians adore sitting outside, even when it is slightly cool. Wrapped in a scarf, sitting on a wicker chair on the pavement, watching people walk by, holding a small espresso. This image is one of the defining visual symbols of Paris. Every film set in Paris includes this exact scene. Because it captures something true about how Parisians live. The city itself is the entertainment. The cafe is just the best seat in the house. Modern Paris still carries a beautiful tradition called Café Philo, which means philosophy cafe. The idea began in 1992, started by a French philosopher who wanted to bring philosophical discussion out of universities and into everyday life. The format is beautifully democratic. Find a cafe. Pick a time. Choose a philosophical question. Invite anyone who is curious to come and discuss. No philosophy degree required. No qualifications at all. Just bring your brain and your genuine curiosity. Questions can be wonderfully ordinary. What is happiness? Does freedom have limits? Is loneliness always bad? People sit with their coffee and think together out loud. This concept has now spread to over 60 countries worldwide. And yes, Taiwan has its own version. That makes me genuinely proud, because it reflects something real about the Taiwanese spirit of curiosity and openness. Before we leave Paris, I want to share one more story that I love. Ernest Hemingway, who spent years living in Paris during the 1920s, wrote about the cafes of the left bank with extraordinary tenderness. He described them as warm and bright places where you could sit and think and feel like a writer. He would go to a cafe, order a café au lait, and write for hours. He said that Paris was a city that was always worth it. That whatever you gave to it, it gave back more. I think part of what he meant was the cafe culture. The way Paris makes you feel that ideas matter. That your inner life is worth protecting. That sitting quietly with a coffee and a notebook is not a waste of time but a completely valid way to spend an afternoon. This attitude is quite different from how many of us were raised to think about productivity. The idea that doing nothing useful for a few hours is fine, even necessary, even civilized. That sitting in a cafe and watching people go by is a form of enrichment rather than laziness. Paris taught that to the world through its cafe culture. And I think the world is still trying to learn the lesson. The French also have a remarkable tradition of extended cafe conversations. In many Parisian cafes, once you order your coffee, the table is yours. There is no time pressure. No subtle hints that you should leave. A waiter will never come over and ask if you want anything else as a way of signaling that you have stayed too long. You are a guest. The cafe is your living room for as long as you need it to be. This hospitality is baked into the cultural DNA of the French cafe. And it creates a completely different energy from cafes and places where tables are turned over quickly for maximum profit. In Paris, the goal is not maximum customers per hour. The goal is the quality of the experience. Efficiency is not the point. Life is the point. Fifth stop. AI robot cafes. Okay, here is our grand finale. We are jumping from history all the way to the future. Because the cafe revolution is not just something that happened in the past. It is happening right now, all around us. AI robot cafes are real. They are here. And they are genuinely changing the landscape. Let us start with Korea again, because Korea is moving incredibly fast in this direction. Several Seoul venues have introduced robotic arms as the Seoul barista. You walk in. You order on a touchscreen. Then you watch the robotic arm grind the beans, steam the milk, complete the drink with smooth, precise movements, and deliver it perfectly to the pickup window. The whole process takes about 90 seconds. The movement of the machine is genuinely hypnotic. People stand there just watching because it is beautiful to observe. Many visitors admit they came not really for the coffee, but for the spectacle itself. China has also invested heavily in robot cafe technology. Shanghai and Shenzhen both have prominent examples. Some use fully automated systems. Some use robot servers to deliver drinks and food. And some of the most sophisticated ones use AI to analyze your flavor preferences and build a custom coffee profile specifically for you. You input what textures and aromas you enjoy. The system processes that information and brews something optimized precisely for your palate. In theory, every single cup is the best possible version of your ideal coffee. That kind of personalization used to require a barista who had known you for years. Now the AI might actually know your preferences better than most baristas, because it remembers every single order and every reaction you have ever given. Japan has its own thoughtful take on this. Some Tokyo cafes feature robots that hold actual conversations with you. The robot asks what you would like to drink. It asks about your mood today. It offers suggestions based on how you seem to be feeling. The voice system is remarkably natural. Many customers say that chatting with it feels more relaxing than talking to a human barista. No social pressure. No worry about holding up the line or bothering someone. Just a calm, frictionless interaction. For people who find social situations draining, this turns out to be genuinely more comfortable. The United States, and especially San Francisco, has been experimenting heavily with automated coffee experiences. Given that Silicon Valley is right across the bay, this makes complete sense. Some automated coffee stations operate directly inside airports. Travelers can pre-order on their phones while still walking toward the pickup area. By the time they arrive, the coffee is freshly made and ready. Near zero wait time. Perfect consistency every single time. For someone rushing to catch a flight, this experience is genuinely excellent. But here's the question I keep thinking about. What exactly do robot cafes miss? I have personally visited a few of these places. The coffee itself is genuinely excellent. Often more consistent than a human barista. The machine never has an off day. It never gets distracted. Every single cup is calibrated perfectly. But, have you ever had this experience? You walk into your regular neighborhood cafe. The barista looks up and recognizes you. They say something like, "Hey, you made it in today. Rough weather out there." The usual? And before you even answer, they are already starting your drink. That feeling of being remembered. Of being a person with a story rather than just an order number. That experience of genuine human recognition. A machine cannot truly replicate that. Not yet. Not really. So many observers believe the future cafe market will naturally split into two clear poles. Ultra-efficient AI cafes on one side. Fast, precise, affordable, completely consistent. And ultra-human artisan cafes on the other. Slower, warmer, relationship-driven, making you genuinely feel like someone cares. Both will absolutely thrive. They just serve completely different human needs. And honestly, I think this pattern goes beyond just cafes. It reflects something bigger about our time. When efficiency can be fully automated, genuine human connection becomes rarer. Which means it becomes more precious, more valuable. In the past we went to cafes because they were more convenient than staying home. In the future we might go to cafes specifically because they offer something a machine genuinely cannot give us. That irreplaceable feeling of being seen by another human being. I want to share one more thought about AI cafes before we move on. There is actually a deeper philosophical question hiding inside this technology shift. What is a cafe actually for? If the answer is just good coffee delivered quickly at low cost, then AI wins easily. Robots will always outperform humans on consistency and speed. But if the answer is something more complex, something about belonging, about being part of a community, about having a third place between home and work where you can just exist without expectation, then the picture gets much more complicated. The sociologist Ray Oldenburg coined the term third place in the 1980s. He meant places that are not home and not work, but that anchor community life. Taverns, barbershops, community centers, and cafes. His argument was that third places are essential to healthy societies. They are where neighbors meet, where conversations happen across social boundaries, where ideas and relationships and communities are built. An AI cafe can serve you a perfect flat white in 90 seconds. But can it be a third place? Can a robotic arm create a sense of belonging? That is the question that nobody has fully answered yet. And I think the answer will shape what cafes look like 20 years from now. There is also the question of what happens to the barista as a profession. Around the world, coffee culture has produced a class of genuinely skilled artisans. People who have spent years learning to taste the subtle differences between single-origin beans. Who understand extraction ratios and water temperature at a level that approaches science. Who can create latte art that takes your breath away. This is real craft. And it is not clear what place that craft has in a world where a robot can replicate the technical aspects perfectly. Some people believe that craft baristas will become like fine chefs in the restaurant world. Sought after. Celebrated. Working in high-end establishments where the human touch is the whole point. Others worry that the middle layer, the decent neighborhood cafe with a trained but not famous barista, will simply disappear. Replaced by robot kiosks. The future of coffee work is genuinely uncertain. And that uncertainty is worth sitting with, even as we enjoy the marvels of what the technology can do. Alright. What a journey we have taken today. From the healing quiet of Tokyo cat cafes. To the immersive story worlds of Seoul manhwa cafes. To the forest stillness of Nordic Hygge and Fika culture. To the philosophical energy of Parisian left bank history. And finally to the efficient and mesmerizing world of AI robot cafes. Every single one of these cafe cultures is answering the same fundamental human question. In this busy world, where can I just be myself? Where can I slow down enough to actually feel alive? Where can I find a moment that belongs only to me? Whether it is a cat settling warmly into your lap in Tokyo, or a philosopher in Paris challenging you to rethink everything, the answer is always the same. It is the place that makes you want to push open the door and walk inside. I think there is something worth saying here about why cafe culture matters so much in our current moment. We live in an age of extraordinary digital connectivity. We can talk to anyone, anywhere, at any time. We have access to more entertainment and information than any humans in history have ever had. And yet loneliness is at record levels in many parts of the world, particularly in dense urban environments. There is a paradox at the heart of modern city life. You are surrounded by millions of people and still feel profoundly alone. The cafe, in all its different forms around the world, is one of the oldest and most reliable answers to this paradox. It is a space that is public but not demanding. You do not have to perform there. You do not have to be productive. You do not have to have a reason to be there beyond just showing up with your coffee and your presence. That permission to simply exist in a shared space is increasingly rare and increasingly precious. The Japanese understood this with their cat cafes. The Swedes understood it with Fika. The Parisians have understood it for centuries with their terrace culture. The form is different in every place, but the underlying need is identical. We need places where we belong without having to earn it. And a great cafe is exactly that. So wherever you are in the world right now, whether you are in a buzzing city or a quiet town, whether you drink your coffee black and strong or layered with oat milk and caramel, I hope you have a cafe that feels like yours. A place where the door is always open. Where something warm is waiting. Where you can stop the clock for just a little while. Because you deserve that. We all do. Before we wrap up, I want to ask you something. What is your ideal cafe like? Are you the laptop warrior who needs a power outlet and 4 hours of Wi-Fi? Are you the quiet reader who just wants a corner, a good book, and a cup that never runs out? Would you love to try a cat cafe someday? Are you secretly dreaming of sitting at Café de Flore watching Paris go by? Or are you actually excited about the AI robot barista experience? Drop your answer in the comments. I am genuinely curious what kind of cafe person you are. Thank you so much for spending part of your weekend with me today. I hope this felt like a little trip around the world without any of the jet lag. You know, after making this episode, I kept thinking about a simple question. If you could teleport to any of the 5 cafes we visited today, which one would you choose? Would you pick the cat cafe in Tokyo, where you can lose yourself in quiet and warmth and the soft weight of a cat on your lap? Would you choose the manhwa cafe in Seoul, where you can disappear into a story for an entire afternoon without anyone judging you? Would you want the Nordic Forest Cafe, where the trees and the lake and the pale winter light make a cup of black coffee feel like a meditation? Would you choose the left bank of Paris, where you can feel the weight of history in every corner and the sense that your thoughts actually matter? Or would you go to the Robot Cafe, where the future is already here, brewing your perfect cup in 90 seconds while you watch with a mix of wonder and something harder to name? All 5 are real answers. All 5 are beautiful in their own way. Cafes are mirrors. They reflect back to us what we are looking for in this life. And that is why they matter so much. Have a wonderful weekend. See you next time.